talk specifically about this Des Moines Register poll. Why is it such a critical one at this final hour?
Yeah, it certainly sent shockwaves through the election world. Ann Seltzer's Iowa poll is highly anticipated. It is highly respected. Her track record speaks for itself, but it certainly is an outlier. If nothing else, I think most people involved in this respect her. Not only for her work, but for putting out a poll that certainly is outside the mainstream. That doesn't mean it's wrong at all. What she seems to be tapping into there is a wider gender gap, and we've already seen a pretty wide one in polling across the country. But in Iowa, that seems to be especially what she found. So we'll see if that plays out, not just in Iowa, but in other nearby states as well, like Wisconsin.
Iowa's always a great indicator in the primaries, but coming into an election, historically speaking, how does Iowa help forecast what happens on election day?
I don't know that it's so much a bellwether state, but it's certainly one that has moved to the right. Over the last couple of years, it had been a swing state previously, one that both parties fought for. But Trump has won it pretty comfortably both times. It wasn't really on anybody's highly competitive map, but certainly the Seltzer poll on Saturday has people reconsidering that to some degree, for sure.
And what about the Emerson poll? What was some of the models that they used for their data?
Yeah, I don't know so much about the models for the data as just the different results. And the Emerson poll is much more in line with what we had been seeing in this cycle from other pollsters. It's something that kind of tracked with, I think, expectations and forecasting models. So it's definitely an interesting laboratory. A lot of the things we see about polling, I know everybody kind of wants to take it as what's going to happen, and it may, but we only know for sure whose methodology and whose surveys were right in the rearview mirror. So we'll have a better idea about those things on Wednesday for sure.
All right, let's talk about Pennsylvania for a moment. Harris is going to spend her time there today. Some of the cities, the counties, the pockets that you're going to be watching tomorrow night when all of the polls don't matter anymore and we're waiting on results.
Sure. I'm going to look at the big areas around Philadelphia, the city itself. We'll see if the talk about Donald Trump doing better with younger Black and Hispanic voters is panning out to some degree. We'll see if Vice President Harris has been able to motivate those voters to come out and stay with the Democrats. We'll be looking at the collar counties there, the more traditional Republican voters that have drifted to the left a little bit, become more moderate, areas where Democrats are making a lot of inroads. And on the Republican side, we'll be looking in the rural areas and some of the swing counties like Luzerne County to see if the turnout's high enough. Donald Trump is going to need a lot of turnout in some of these smaller counties, the rural areas, where he has a lot of support. That's the question. Has polling accurately reflected those people? Have they been able to reach them? And once we start to get some turnout numbers from those various geographic areas, we'll have a much better sense of where Pennsylvania, potentially the nation, is going to wind up.
And he's focusing his efforts in these final hours on North Carolina. What are some of the things that you've been watching in the polls and the tightness of the race there?
Yeah, North Carolina is a very important state for both candidates. It's a traditionally Republican state, recently at the federal level at least, but Donald Trump won it about 3.5 points in 2016, a little more than a point in 2020. So it's pretty key to his electoral map. If he can win North Carolina, keep it in his column, flip Georgia, then we're back to Pennsylvania, because that would be the one state that he would need if he can keep everything else out west. So North Carolina, it's not a surprise to see him out there. Again, it's going to be those areas where you're seeing higher educated voters. The Democrats are expecting to do well, and the Republicans are going to be looking in those rural and ex-urban areas to turn out the vote that people may not have been capturing in the polling. Right now, it's tied, and that may be how it turns out. Very close election.
In addition to Pennsylvania, the blue wall, you've got Wisconsin and Michigan. What are some of the trends that you've been noticing and the margins in those two states?
Again, very close polling. Michigan of the three is probably fundamentally the most Democratic. Wisconsin, you could say, is probably fundamentally the most friendly to the Republicans, and Pennsylvania sort of just behind it. We're going to be looking, again, a lot of same areas. We're going to look in college town turnouts, places like Madison, Waukesha in Michigan, Ann Arbor. We're also going to be seeing in Wayne County, there's a large Arab American population. There's been a lot of talk about that community's unhappy unhappiness with the handling of the Israeli-Hamas war, how that might shake out. Will they move to Donald Trump, perhaps? Will they stay home, or will they stay in their traditional home with the Democratic Party? So,
thank you for watching. Go to newsnationnow.com to find NewsNation on your television provider, and don't forget to click the red subscribe button below to get more of NewsNation's fact-driven, unbiased coverage.